Good afternoon, everyone. I hope I am audible. Thank you. Good afternoon once again. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Gursimran Singh, Program Associate Sphere India, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar. This is a fourth session of our webinar series on heat wave preparedness, a multi-sectoral approach for resilience. Today's session title is Urban Heat Risk and Infrastructure, Building Heat Resilient City and Settlements. Organized by Spare India Academy in collaboration with NIDM and Vartman Mahavir Medical College and Safdarjung Hospital. This session aim explore how city can be better for the extreme heat by using inclusion planning, green infrastructure, and community-based solutions. And we are honored to have some of the most experienced speaker with us today to share their insight. And now I would like to invite our moderator of the day, Miss Apekshita ma'am, founder of HeatWatch. Take the session forward. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gursimran. Hello and welcome all of you. Welcome to today's session. As Gursimran mentioned, this is the fourth session in the webinar series organized by Sphere. And today we will be talking about urban heat risks and infrastructure and building heat resilient cities and settlements. And this, of course, is a extremely important topic to discuss, not just from India, but multiple places in the global south. As cities grow hotter, the need for more inclusive, more climate resilient planning has never been more urgent. And we're very happy that in today's session, we have a diverse group of planners, experts, thinkers, community leaders who will help us explore green infrastructure, participatory planning, and adaptive shelter models and how that can drive climate justice and resilience. Because it's not just a question of planning from a top-down perspective, but how do we integrate those who are most affected, and how can their voices be both part of, and how can social protection nets be built in a way that people who are most impacted are included in decision making. Especially marginalized communities, and how can solutions be rooted in more equity, nature-based infrastructure, and inclusive policy design. So these are some of the lenses through which I will be moderating the session today. And I would love to invite all of you to please use the chat box for any questions. We will have a question answer round towards the end of the session, but I invite all of you to continue to add questions throughout, as in when you think of something and if you'd like something answered. And towards the end, I'll be happy to take those questions to our speakers. And without further ado, I would love to invite our first speaker, who is Sudha ma'am. Sudha Ramen is an Indian Forest Service officer. She's currently serving as the member secretary of the State Planning Commission, Tamil Nadu, where she leads strategic evaluation, SDG coordination, and governance innovations. And ma'am, are you with us?
Ma'am is joining just shortly. Just to give a second.
Okay, so
yeah,
she is our first speaker, and maybe we'll wait a couple of minutes. And as people are still joining in, so we'll just wait a couple more minutes to have people join us and discuss, and we'll get started shortly. Hi, Gursimran. I think there's a technical issue that Sudha ma'am is facing.
Yeah, ma'am is here. Just a second.
Okay. Thank you all of you for your patience. We'll get started shortly.
Ma'am joined with this name MSPC.
Yes, SPC.
Yes. Ma'am, now you can unmute yourself, ma'am.
Yeah, finally. Okay,
Thank
I've been trying to unmute and yeah. So I have a presentation to share. So just give me a minute to get it. You know. Yeah. My screen visible?
It's just loading, but we can see your screen. The presentation is just loading. Yes, we can see the presentation.
So I think my topic for the day is about AGI, blue-green infrastructure. So yeah, I just have a small presentation to run. Hope that's okay. Audible and visible too?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So when you talk about a blue-green network, it is nothing but, and I think all of us here today know about what is a blue-green network. I don't need to read the definition per se, but we do understand that we should be able to understand and appreciate that we have got a lot of ecosystem services that this BGN has been rendering. And the importance of BGN is significant when we are looking for climate action, especially for heat mitigation, and not just heat, but also other disasters. So we need to focus on BGN. And focusing on BGN, I think it's personally, I think that it's something not something that is being told in recent time, but traditionally our communities have been doing it, and this is the most sustainable way of living as well. And we have been practicing it from time immemorial. But in the rapid urbanization that we face at present, it's high time that we pay attention to what is BGN, to know what is blue-green network, and to know and to understand about the different ecosystem services that this infrastructure has been rendering to us. And we in the State Planning Commission of Tamil Nadu, we have a land use research board. The land use research board with the Aravind consulting went about doing an significant exercise of mapping and having a framework developed for blue-green infrastructure. We did it at the state level to identify the areas of blue-green network. I'll be explaining all these things in the subsequent slide. And what we went about doing with this framework is we are developing a strategy to identify and to assess the opportunities of protecting the existing blue-green network and the scope for identifying new areas and avenues in which it could be protected and strengthened further. So a statewide mapping and evaluation exercise was recently carried out. And the study is yet to be formally published. But however, I'll not be able to disclose most of the the findings because it's still not been published formally. But we have completed this exercise. So in terms of blue elements, we considered all the water bodies, including wetlands and mangroves. Mangrove falls both in green as well as blue segment. And Tamil Nadu has been known, I think most of the states also have got a lot of sacred groves. And reserve forest is obvious green element. which comes in, and we also assess the unused land potential. And we tried doing this mapping of blue-green and the opportunities of having this blue-green network in the unused land as well. So as I told already, blue-green network is nothing but a continuous ecosystem which connects both blue, which is water-based, and then green, which is nature-based. I'm not sure if this is hiding here. And what we went about doing is this was the consideration we had in identifying the blue-green network of the state. And we also went about analyzing the ecosystem services that it's been providing. And ecosystem services is something not very unfamiliar to us. Different kinds of ecosystem services are there: provisioning services, regulating, climate regulation, cultural services, and a few other parameters apart from the four popular ecosystem services were also being considered. For example, this is one opportunity we went about analyzing: the stormwater management. You can see the figure of what are the blue-green network and which are the things that can help in the stormwater management. And this slide shows about carbon stock, the potential of utilizing this blue-green for carbon stock, and the food provisioning and all that. And in regulating services, soil erosion is one major thing apart from the air quality and the water quality. So we went about doing this. And why we are talking about this with respect to heat? Because urban forest is something, climate is something Tamil Nadu has been a pioneer in climate action. And the SDG India Index 4.0, which was released by Niti Aayog, also places Tamil Nadu in rank number 1. We jumped from rank number 11 to rank 1 within a span of 2-3 years, because the action on climate and a lot of other mitigation aspects helped the state in securing this position. And a lot of analysis were also done in taking up this blue-green infrastructure to see how this can help in mitigating the heat. And not just this, we have went about doing a lot of urban heat island mapping, the hotspots of the urban heat island effect in the cities of Tamil Nadu. Why Tamil Nadu is so interested in urban heat island is because the state is almost, highly urbanizing. And, our urbanization percentage is estimated to be around 52 to 53%. So that gives us a huge concern of how this effect of urban heat island has been significantly, affecting the vulnerable communities which are largely residing in the urban area. So that was the main reason that we took heat. And Tamil Nadu was the first state to declare heat as a state-specific disaster. And a lot of mitigation strategies and heat action plans for cities is also being worked out, and a lot of works are getting initialized for the heat mitigation. And this blue-green network identification and potential mapping of blue-green network was one other initiative we took. And apart from the heat mitigation and other climate aspects, the PGI also supports in biodiversity and network integrity. By means of network integrity, you know that the green cover strengthening and the opportunity of expanding in the unused areas is also been significant here. And this is the findings. So we have about 667 blue-green networks across the state. Most of it are nano category, and we are trying to identify mega categories. And we have got good results that's come out, and the potential sites where this could be developed. These are the major findings that we have got. And the opportunities are the unused land where this could be expanded is also been identified. And this is about the activities that the state has already commissioned in terms of taking up Green Tamil Nadu mission, where within 10 years, there is an aspiration of getting 265 crore seedlings to be planted and to increase the tree cover significantly. And Tamil Nadu is one state which has got more number of Ramsar means the highest number of Ramsar wetlands in the country. And it aims to also to increase the mangrove cover or to support a lot of disaster resilience and also to increase the opportunities of livelihood for the fisher communities. And having said this, some of the other initiatives what the government has taken is the Sponge Park initiative by Practitioner Corporation. About 150 sponge parks are going to be getting installed. And sponge parks are one of the popular blue-green, and infrastructure. And we know how sponge parks has been significantly helping cities like Chennai, which faces very, very frequent flood and all that. So not just in terms of heat, but also in terms of helping us to control the other disasters. Again, blue-green infrastructure supports a lot. And these are the CMD is also actively considering blue-green infrastructure's potential and trying to get it integrated into the third master plan development. And about 100 blue-green centers are proposed to be established across the state in the coming years. So with this, I end my presentation here. Yeah, I'm open for questions.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for sharing those insights. It's great to see the efforts that are being taken to improve blue-green infrastructure. My question is specifically around for urban heat island effect. And we know that there has been a decline in mangrove and green spaces, even in Chennai city, much like other parts of the country. So what are your plans currently to increase that green shaded spaces, greening of the city to ensure that people who are most exposed to heat stress are able to rest when it comes to peak heat wave days?
Definitely, see, for us, the urban heat island effect is definitely a significant concern. Why? Because it's not just the heat, it's also the humidity that affects cities like Chennai, with the tropical located and also with long sheet load. What we have here, we have been experiencing a lot of effects of heat stress and thermal discomfort affecting the vulnerable communities especially. And a lot of awareness is being given, and a lot of other health-related protocols have also been developed by the state government in getting this system recorded and to give a proper treatment to the people who come report of heat-related ailments. And this is one with respect to health. Two, with respect to city-level planning, a lot of initiatives, as I already highlighted, sponge parks, urban forestry is being focused here. A ward-level analysis is being done. A ward level heat mapping is also being done already, and this has gone into the Chennai Metropolitan Development Authority has taken into consideration into the third master plan, and this translates into the potential of how much of urban forestry or what is the focus that the administration has to give for the urban forestry is also being outlaid. So under the schemes of Green Tamil Nadu Mission, we have got a component which particularly addresses on urban increasing the tree cover in the urban areas, and peri-urban is also a significant concern for us. And we have got schemes supported by JICA, which is said to be Tamil Nadu Biodiversity Greening Project and Climate Resilience Scheme, TBGP CCR. Efforts are being taken to increase the green cover both in urban and the peri-urban areas.
Thank you so much for that response, ma'am. We often find that while there are good guidelines and there are good plans in place, when it comes to implementation, there are quite a few challenges, including when there is interdepartmental coordination that's necessary. There are also examples of people being denied to take rest in a particular park or in a particular green space. What is your plan to deal with those kind of challenges, and what more needs to be done to prepare ourselves when it comes to heat and increasingly warming on an increasingly warming earth?
Yeah, as you rightly said, there are multiple departments, and the role of each of these departments is something significant, which which has to be collective action has to be taken up. Considering this, I'm sure that you must be aware that Tamil Nadu was one state which prepared the heat mitigation strategy well in advance, and that helped the government in declaring heat as a state-specific disaster. In the strategy document that's available in our website as well, anyone can go and have a look at it. We have listed out the roles and responsibilities of each of these departments in the manner in which they have to come together in addressing this huge challenge of heat. So having known that, a heat action network has also been established, and the SDMA is taking up a key role in bringing all of these departments together under one roof in initiating actions. And not just that, the heat action plan that's getting, it's getting prepared, and the roles and responsibilities of each of these departments at the city level is being clearly prescribed, along with short-term, mid-term, and the long-term targets what these departments have to focus on. Having said that, for a city like Chennai, we have got a capable corporation GCC, which is taking a lead in showing how heat mitigation could be addressed. For example, one good classic example what the world looks is the Adayar Creek restoration, which is the first blue-green infrastructure that was restored, and it is a successful model. And as I showed in my presentation, emulating this model across the state is something that's been worked out. And the departments and the government has been taking up lead role in getting this action into reality.
Thank you so much. I'm also keeping an eye on time, but I do have to ask one more question, ma'am. So, of course, like we know that heat waves are not a national disaster under the NDMA, and states like Tamil Nadu have notified it as a disaster. Could you tell us what that also means apart from compensation for somebody if they die because of a heat stroke? What kind of many of these measures are also reciprocal, are sort of responsive in nature, that once a heat wave strikes, what is really the plan around mitigation apart from the some specific sort of things that you've suggested? What are ways in which we can actually protect people from being exposed to this heat in the first place? And
see, actually declaring heat as the disaster itself is a significant step, because that sends out a huge message, because heat is a silent disaster. This is something which all of us agree. Okay, the awareness on heat is something that, when you declare something as a disaster, that sends out a huge message to the community. So awareness generation, community participation, actively sensitizing them on the effects of, heat stress and thermal discomfort is something very, very essential. This government has been, very, very proactive in terms of not just talking, in terms of building up a lot of evidences in highlighting it to the communities of why this is a serious issue. The very purpose of mapping the hotspots and making it available to public is something, sensitizes them, telling that, okay, I reside in a hotspot of urban heat island. So how can I contribute to keeping my building cooler? So this gives an opportunity, and now we are also working at individual building level and institutional level, how passive cooling could be integrated, how cool roofs could be adopted by the individual, what kind of energy efficiency devices, appliances could be used, and how it contributes significantly in reducing the UHI effect as a city in the particular area. All of this kind of sensitization is being done, and we don't limit ourselves only with the department. We engage with the stakeholders. We engage with the real estate developers, architects, civil industry people in accommodating this passive cooling strategy into their building design, and then considering that effectively to reduce the active cooling need and to reduce the GHG emissions subsequently. So these are the kind of actions that the state has been already initiating. And a few pilots have been, also taken up. Pilot results have been made available online to all the people. So this, encourages individuals to respond and to take up all of these initiatives at their individual capacity as well.
Thank you. And I mean, as you said, individual awareness and capacity building is very important. Could you also talk about, when you say consultation with stakeholders, how are employers being engaged? How is the labor department being engaged, or other types of employers being engaged to
The labor
desensitize?
department, the labor department and the industrial workers, we have a unit exclusively for the industrial workers, has been actively engaging, and a lot of advisories are being given. And these departments also go on, visiting these industries and, units. A lot of advisories get issued whenever heat day is being declared. The district collector declares, and these industrial worker safety is being ensured. These departments visit, go and surprise visits are being conducted to ensure that the work timings are made comfortable for them, and the work environment is kind of comfortable with adequate ventilation. They have a facility of having adequate hydration as well, providing them not just with water, but with ORS liquid. So these kinds of advisories are being given. And even the heat mitigation strategy document exclusively prescribes about what kind of measures they have to take specific to industries like, automobile industries or construction workers and all that. So I think definitely in all of these aspects, Tamil Nadu has been definitely doing a good job.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I would love to keep talking to you, but I understand that
Thank
you're in a rush. So
you.
thank you a lot for your time.
Pleasure.
There's a question from our audience member who's asking you to please share some of the links to the pilots and discussions. We can maybe follow up with you after this.
You can just visit our website, which is the State Planning Commission's website. Just type in State Planning Commission, Government of Tamil Nadu. You will be directed to our website, and probably you can get access to the reports, whatever is being published.
Okay. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for taking out the time. And I would love to invite our second speaker to please join us now, Miss Mitashi Singh, if you are on the call and if you can unmute yourself. Yes, hi, Mitashi. Thank you so much for joining us today. Mitashi is an urban planner and leads CSE's research on urban heat management and circularity for climate resilient cities. She has a working experience of more than 10 years on enabling sustainability in the built environment. Welcome, Mitashi, and over to you.
Thank you, Apekshita. Thank you, organizers. I'll quickly share the presentation, the slides that I have. Okay, I hope it's visible. Now, okay, can anybody help me out by confirming that the screen is visible? Because
yes,
I'm getting...
it's visible.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. So I am supposed to speak on what planning measures are needed for heat resilient cities. The best way for me to summarize all this enormous knowledge and things that we now have to do by linking you with or going back to the 5 elements of nature. I'm pretty sure that most of you know what wind, water, sun, and earth are when it comes to nature. So all of us have heard about these elements and how these elements are the very existence of us humans. So if we have to plan for heat resilience, we have to see what our plan or what our design is going to do with these natural elements. So speaking of wind, let's start with wind. So what we have seen is that a lot of group housing is coming up in the country. Now we know that land is a scarce resource, and we have to go for a group housing approach. Self-constructed single-story or double-story dwellings are not feasible for our cities anymore. So hence group housing or mass housing is everywhere in the country now. Now, what happens when you have this is when these layouts are done, nobody thinks of the ventilation. Nobody thinks how the ventilation is going to be. Nobody looks at the natural wind patterns in a given locality. So what we saw, we studied one of such mass housing projects in the country, and we found out that nearly 60% of the blocks are either too windy or less windy. Basically, they were not getting adequate ventilation when it comes to the design. So how do we deal with that? We need to understand this. So many sophisticated simulation tools are available. We did this using computational flow dynamics, uh, using macro flow software. So these systems, these tools are available, but unfortunately, in academia, education, also in practice, very less knowledge is there about these tools and approaches. So this is ventilation. Now going on to sun, going on to what the nature is doing for heat. All of us are aware that warm nights are becoming a problem. So CSE's publication, annual publication, State of India's Environment, they came up with this finding that 17 of the 36 states of and union territories saw warm nights in the previous year, and this year also. Just now, people who are there in Delhi NCR can feel it. What I'm talking about. The heat is enormous, and it does not look like that. It's going to be pleasant any soon. So warm nights are a problem, and it's linked to so many public health impacts, adverse impacts. If we look at some historical data, we can see that cities are not cooling down, and the delta that was, let's say, in case of Delhi, which was about 12.3 degrees, has reduced to 9.8 degrees. Means our major cities are not able to cool down on their own, which means that the urban heat island effect is more prominent in the night time. Now we need to ensure that our systems are planned in such a way that we can not trap the heat from the sun and let it go back to the space as it should go back. So to do this, to understand this, we have seen in so many cities. We did this analysis for 9 cities, now 10, and we saw that all the climate zones, warm, humid, composite, hot and dry, moderate, all the climate zones are behaving similarly. So land surface temperatures are breaching 45 degrees Celsius again and again. In terms of spatial area, more than 80%, 85% of a city's area is heat stress, which means that they are facing such extreme temperature again and again. So we have this study and findings published in a down-to-earth cover, How Hot is Too Hot. So if you'll find this on our website, and this publication will tell you what we were able to find out. Now, as Madam Sudha Raman has also shared in the previous session, that decline in green-blue infrastructure is one of the biggest issues in our cities. So, from those 9 city analysis, you can see in these graphs here that um, greens have reduced as high as 47% in certain cities over 2 decades. So here we have Jaipur, Pune, Nagpur that have faced the worst of this decline, and water cover also has faced a similar issue. So Kolkata, Delhi especially have lost their water cover over these decades. Now we understand that green and blue infrastructure are a very important part of a city's shield. These are the sinks that also trap the heat energy, that use the heat energy in evapotranspiration, and they also disable the city or the surface not to trap a lot of heat from the sun. But as green and blue infrastructure is reducing and paved surfaces are increasing, we are trapping more and more heat coming from the sun. So to break this down, how we can reverse this process, and yes, this is reversible. How we can reverse this process, for this we have to understand 3 aspects: urban cover, urban structure, and urban metabolism. While cover is the larger distribution of green-blue infrastructure and paved surfaces, Urban structure is a detailed breakdown of, how the buildings are clustered, what kind of surfaces are there in the buildings, what is the orientation of the building, how much pavement, how many rows, how much roads, and such surfaces are there. What is the canopy cover of trees around the buildings? Basically, what is the total quantum of shading available in a given neighborhood? So this is a scale down to a neighborhood level or a building level. Now, speaking of urban metabolism, so you know that there are certain urban practices that um, eject heat into our environment. So AC is a classic example of that. Vehicles are a classic example of that. So these are the big heat ejectors, but we also have small heat ejectors. For example, our laptop computers, they also generate heat, and that heat also, in some ways goes to the ambient environment. Now, when this heat ejection is quite high, what happens is that the ambient environment gets heated up very fast, and because it's very hot outside, we pump our air conditioning double the amount as we would have in other scenarios. So this is a vicious cycle that gets created because we are not able to regulate urban metabolism quite nicely through our planning and through our natural cover. So now all our discussion has boiled down to this element of balancing how much shading and how much exposure is there in our cities. Also, what kind of anthropogenic activities are there in our cities. So, I cannot go so much in detail due to paucity of time, but to understand shading, we have explored factors like sky view factor, aspect ratio, canopy cover of trees, and we do understand that exposure is dependent on what kind of material is there in the buildings. If that heat trapping material is exposed for a longer time, naturally it will absorb a lot more heat. What kind of impervious spaces are there? What kind of barren areas are also there? Because all these elements are trappers of heat. Now, what kind of surfaces in terms of greens and water are there? We know that these areas are not trappers, instead, they are the sinks. So, the distribution of all these elements is important because you see here in this graph, I want to show a very dramatic relationship between the ambient temperature and the electricity consumed. So you see these parallel lines are actually what we call is the sweet spot in our cities. So when the temperatures are just hitting 30, 31 degrees, the electricity consumption is quite low. But the moment it breaches 32 degrees Celsius, you see the jump in electricity consumption. So our bodies understand the thermal discomfort. Our bodies understand how the ambient environment is like, what ambient temperatures can do to our comfort. But the problem is that we do not factor this in our material choice, in the design of our buildings, in the way we plan things, because it's clearly evident from some research that we did a few years back that concrete is becoming a dominant material. So I don't want to sound harsh, but you see, in Delhi, there's a lot of redevelopment going on. Starting from East Kidwai Nagar, a lot of redevelopment has taken place. Residential, commercial buildings have come up. And what is the material that they have used? They have used only concrete. So, not just the roof, not just the plinth, not just the slabs and pillars, but the entire walls are made of concrete. Imagine such amount of concrete, what it will do to our indoors. So concrete that also reinforced with the steel. We know that steel is a good conductor of heat, right? We know metals are good conductor, and concrete also gets heated up very fast. So when you put such materials in our buildings, what happens? Uh, the EPI, that is the Energy Performance Index, which is way below 50 in a naturally ventilated building, it jumps 6.5 times because it pushes the need for air conditioning. So this is the impact that we're actually dealing with in our cities. And sadly, this impact is counterproductive to the commitments we have. So India has this Panchamrit commitment to net zero. when we do not have a wise selection of materials, good choice of materials, what happens? We jeopardize all these commitments. But the good news is that there are a lot of tools that, tell us how to reach this net zero commitment. So, India long-term low carbon development strategies, India cooling action plan, energy conservation and sustainability building code. A latest version has come up. Eco Niwas Samhita has come up. So these are some wins that we now see in our cities because these codes guide us into a good direction. But unfortunately, these codes are not all mandatory. So what as planners we need to do, what we as good policymakers need to do is push these codes towards mandatory adoption. So here you see that we have a lot of materials in use in mass housing. We evaluated them, and you see that monolithic concrete, modular tunnel form, wafflecrete, precast concrete all have a U value of more than 3.4, 3.8. In Econivas Samhita, they're looking at a U value of about 1.5 or lesser. So you see where the difference is. You see how much the difference is. So I'll try to summarize now. So to do this, what we're doing is we're working on campuses because passive design and dealing with the microclimate, it requires design, of course, but it also requires low carbon cooling systems because we completely cannot eliminate the need for cooling in our buildings because 70% of India's geography has a high temperature. It receives hot temperatures in especially in summer. So we will have some requirement of cooling, and we have a very good opportunity to slow down the transition to energy guzzling air conditioners. Now, all these practices or cases are summarized in one of our publications titled "The Cooling Web." Um, and other than this, there are a lot of compendiums by the government also. For example, BMTPC has come up with these indigenous innovative material compendium. Then there is a thermal comfort action plan under preparation by Mahua. There's also a Prithvi program that talks about increasing thermal comfort in affordable housing. So a lot of knowledge is out there, but the problem is, we need to get it under implementation. Now, how will this get implemented? By creating a demand for thermal comfort. I know it's very difficult to change human mind, but that is exactly what we need. And CSE is working on, doing this in this direction. We have a campaign called Cool It campaign, and under this we are releasing all this information to uh, create literacy about thermal comforts, and so that people know that how small design decisions and measures can help them prevent so much of energy consumption, energy bills, and also keep their health, in good shape when it comes to thermal discomfort. So that is the work we're doing. We are also working on cities. We're also working on different vulnerable communities. So our city work is there in this toolkit. It's called Planning and Designing Habitat in Climate Risk Times. You will see how we have evaluated heat stress at city, neighborhood, and local scales. And there is a case of Pune, and there is also vulnerability assessment on for heat, and the case there is Kolkata. And speaking of vulnerable communities, we also work with the school children. We also work with the construction workers because we identify all these as, vulnerable communities. So this is an example of the heat vulnerability we have done for Kolkata. And we found that, so many wards are highly vulnerable because of the people who live there, because of the, conditions those wards have, which because of the level of services these wards have. So certain parameters, indicators were taken into consideration. I cannot list them out all here, but you can definitely take a look. It's all published. And this is a video that we made for construction workers to highlight what kind of issues are there. So for school children, how many water taps are there, water stations are there, the ratio of water stations to children, what is the accessibility to those water stations, uh, the buildings, how the buildings are clustered, what kind of passive design features the school has or can adopt So all these have now become a part of our work with schools. This work is available in the school manual, and you can take a look at this and find out that we really have dearth of data on the impact of heat on school children in schools. Children are a vulnerable group because you see they don't know when to hydrate. You have to tell children that drink some water or cool yourself down, uh, have some fruits, have some glucose or something. So with this is what makes school children vulnerable to heat. But who looks after that when they're in school? So this is a big concern for the parents, and it actually comes down to the school to look after this requirement and how well they do it. There is no qualitative, data about it that the schools currently are dealing with. So there is a case to push this with CBSE. There is a case to push this with other education boards, and all this you will find under this school manual. Now, for construction workers, we look at their vulnerability to heat as well as air pollution. And very interestingly so, both these vulnerabilities are correlated. So the heat spots are also air pollution hotspots. So when a worker, let's say in Delhi, we have the GRAP. So whenever GRAP is enforced in the months of November or December, construction workers lose pay, they lose livelihood. So there is a compensation program by the government to make up for that emergency period. But when, let's say, construction is stopped in a heat wave period, what happens then? So far, there are no provisions for this, but again, we are trying to make a case for this. That we need to look after their requirements, as Madam Sudha has also highlighted, that working hours, standard operating procedures, when it's a very heated up time, let's say in the afternoon, a person should not work at heights because the possibility to get dizzy and fall down is higher in that case. So measures like this need to be combined in a standard operating procedure, and this is something that the Department of Labor has to take up. Then facilities for construction workers on site, how they live, what kind of services are available, medical services, water availability, water and sanitation requirements, safe water, portable water. And if there are kids or at the construction site, special measures for that. So there are so many requirements that, this vulnerable group particularly requires, and there is a need to work in that direction. This is an example of something we are currently working on. So we're simulating microclimates.
I'm really sorry, but could you please wrap up in the
Yeah,
next?
this is just the final thing.
Thank you.
So this is basically what we're working on. So we've done our work on cities, but now we are simulating and seeing how the microclimate behaves in different cities, because that is what will lead us to, what kind of prioritized measures are going to be there. So short-term measures that work, medium term and long-term measures. So this is the nature of work. And you will find all that work on this School It campaign page. This is a snapshot of what we're doing. So Madam Sudha Raman was also featured in one of our videos under the Urban Heatscapes video docu-series. So she was part of the Chennai video, so you can take a look at that. Similarly, there is a lot of stuff that now has come up on heat resilience in cities. So that's all from me, and happy to take up any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mitashi. Very informative presentation, and what a clear link between concrete and lack of thermal comfort, need for improvements, as well as the suggestion on construction workers, social security, safety nets during peak heat wave periods. I think just in the interest of time, we were hoping to get more speakers present, and then towards the end have a few questions from the audience. So I would love to invite our next speaker, Mr. Aravind, to come and speak. Aravind is an urban planner as well as a practitioner and researcher working on inclusive, equitable, and sustainable cities. With over 14 years of experience, he has worked closely with informal workers and marginalized communities to influence urban planning and policy. Aravind, please, over to you.
Thank you, Apekshita. Pleasure to be here. I think I'm audible. So, guys, I'm
in a remote part of Hyderabad, surprisingly, but it's Hyderabad and the net connectivity is a little off. So I've managed a spot for myself. Hopefully this should continue the way it is working right now. Great. Let me just try and share the screen. If just a second. Perfect. Guys, you can see this is what I believe.
Yes, we can see you.
Right? Lovely. So I can't see you all, but the screen is most important. So happy to be here and good to present after, let's say, Sudha and Mitashi and the important points that they've mentioned. So I was given the task of doing a presentation on especially informal workers and settlements and how do you engage with the question of protecting them from urban heat. Here, I should also mention firstly that this is a result of many efforts that are happening by also different groups and campaigns. But primarily, my engagement with this, especially in the last year, was due to my work with Vigo. I don't think Shalini is here, but she's been my senior sort of partner and colleague in doing a lot of advocacy work on this. So I just want to mention that. And also, I think my colleague Ashil is here. So some of the ideas are also evolving and the work that we're doing. So that is one other credit that I wish to kind of put it up right in the front. So I just have a few slides and will primarily be talking about informal workers and settlements. More of informal workers, settlements, because the topic kind of demanded that. So firstly, I think even before we enter the discussion, I just wanted to kind of give two strong examples of where our work primarily on inclusion bit is coming in. Inclusion bit, especially in heat action and heat action plans, is coming in. The example that Sudha madam had given, I was just checking with our friends and colleagues on phone on the side. The model example that she had given of Adayar eco restoration has also led to a removal and displacement of around 10,000 families or people, I don't know, in a remote area of Chennai, outskirts of Chennai, called Perumbakam, where the housing units are even in a bad situation. Clearly, the heat resilience has not been kind of taken care of in that. So when we talk about blue-green infrastructure and how we need it in our cities, but there are also repercussions and issues in the implementation of which could actually be displace a lot of communities in the near future. So that is just a fact that I want to kind of put up right in front before we begin. And again, to restate, what are we talking about and who are we talking about? So when Mitashi was talking of course, the built and the formally built houses, so on and so forth. But essentially, this is just an example from Delhi, and it applies to more or less our different cities. The informality in work is like a lot more than, of course, informality in settlements and how we live. So informal workers in Delhi would easily be around 20 lakh plus, just the listing of workers that we have done: street vendors, construction workers, domestic workers, so on and so forth. And informal settlements again in Delhi would be easily around so many lakh people and population and percentage. So whilst we are talking about formal buildings, but what our heat resilience plans or heat action plans miss out is this huge chunk of informal workers and settlements which are completely left out, or no, I won't say left out, but they are mentioned, but their actions are never the priority. If at all they become a priority, it leads to a lot of unwanted actions that the workers themselves probably don't want. So just the first point that I wish to kind of make is that if there are around 15 plus crore urban informal workers and 17% of urban population that's living in slums, let's not make it that outdoor workers, and this image is what we usually find in our heat action plans, they are not the same. They are very, very different. There is a lot of layering and different kinds of workers that we have. So that would be the first point, that to firstly understand who are these informal workers. understand what are the informal settlements that we're talking about. And we are just now talking about slums. If you add unauthorized colonies and self-built housing or auto-constructed housing, which is in a spectrum of informality, that percentage and population can really go high. So these are the people that we are talking about, and they are not just outdoor workers, which is how usually heat action plans classify. So I know that we have moved beyond heat action plans. This is the second slide, so I might not take a lot of time here. But heat action plans, unfortunately or fortunately, are the biggest mechanism that we have at this stage to deal with heat resilience, at least at this stage. Let's hope that it's not the case going forward. But there are severe limitations of heat action plans. You might have had these discussions in your previous exchanges, but we know a lot of them that they treat heat as a temporary event. They are primarily geared to save lives and reduce mortality. They don't have legal backing. They don't have money. They don't have participation, so on and so forth. So I'll not kind of go into that, but there are these inherent limitations that we have. And it is in this that we have to operate and work towards heat resilience for these specific groups. So that's like a added challenge that we have. My presentation and the points that I'm making are again primarily looking at heat action plans and how do we kind of improve that or make it more inclusive. So I know it's a little limiting in that sense, but I would stick to the heat action plan and advocate for the inclusion bit, and then see if we can broaden the debate. So how do heat action plans work the way they do? I don't know if you guys have seen this very interesting video, which I think the NDMA has done, and these clips on the right hand side are taken from there. And I was quite happy to see the video. At least it recognizes different kinds of informal workers, even though it doesn't say much. But the fact that it's been recognized and it's come out as a video by NDMA, I think that in itself is a positive in many ways. But what it also misses is the fact that if you just look at the few liners here, that it looks at workers as vulnerable groups, general vulnerable groups, and outdoor workers are specifically mentioned. And some are mentioned like vegetable vendors, auto repair mechanics, cab drivers, construction workers, so on and so forth. But essentially, remember that when our guidelines, or especially NDMA guidelines, which are quite outdated, it is being revised at this stage, but as of now, we don't have a new version. We essentially, when we say outdoor workers, we think that they are men, they are outdoor, they work outdoor, they have caps, and they are like construction workers, right? I mean, going towards that spectrum. And when you also look at slums, though they are mentioned and recognized, but hardly few actions are mentioned of what could be done, but mostly restricted to cool roofs as the first and the only solution to what can be done with slums. And last point being that when you look at informal workers and what could be done, they're talking about work hours, rest, water, intensity as the primary sort of method of dealing with workers. Again, to bring a little gap on what exactly is happening right now, I'm just giving quick examples. Pick 3 heat action plans of different cities that are the most recent and are the best examples of relatively good heat action plans, and sharing them with you. So they have increasingly started to identify more worker categories and groups, which is great. I think we are all happy with that. They all identify informal settlements as a key area of work, which is again great. But you see that the numbers still don't capture the diversity that we have, because each worker group is different. Their working areas are different. They are also indoor, but they are also outdoor. But there are so many workers that are indoor. Like look at home-based workers, look at domestic workers, but we don't have guidelines for them. Look at informal settlements, for instance, very less number of what could be done in heat action plans, but that's also because the heat action plans are structured in a certain way. Taking this, what are we asking for? And I mean, we are coming straight to the ask, but maybe we can have more round of discussions and then think of how we got to this as well, right? So right now, our simple demand and straight ask to NDMA is also, and this is lot of organizations have contributed, but primarily it's a work of me being part of Vigo, and we have taken this forward, but many other groups, people's movements, social movements have done this. But it's essentially that what we are asking right now is that, looking at the limitation of heat action plan, can you fix urban informal workers as priority group in vulnerable group? If you release an advisory that the states and the cities have to follow, that would be a big help. So firstly, we are demanding for an advisory note. Second, that we are saying that we need to have dedicated sections, like, or subsections or sub chapters within heat action plans, and only when you have them mentioned there, that there is a possibility that there will be some action on that, right? So coming from that perspective. Second, we wish to say that there is a lot of, point number two, there is a lot of work that needs to go before heat action plan. So don't think that this is something that you come out with in February, March, and you're done with in June. So that's not going to work. You have to do a lot of work, which is point number two, which is prior to heat kicking in. Third is what you have, very basic, simple asks that we're asking of simple actions that could be taken during heat waves. Then fourth, there are measures of heat resilience planning, that needs to be taken forth after the heat waves are done, and then which includes social security mechanisms, insurance, so on and so forth. Essentially saying that, look, we know that heat action plans have a very limited scope. NDMA can only do that much because they are National Disaster Management Authority. They are not the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. They are not the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. They are not the Ministry of Labor. But essentially, at least advisory note, if it comes from you, that will help the heat action plans to be a little more broader. That's slide number one. I just have two more slides, Apekshita. I hope that I have a couple of minutes. Lovely. Thank you, Apekshita. So to conclude, in the immediate, what we're asking, and in the immediate could be like in the next year, 6 months. So that's for NDMA and all the state agencies to, and maybe for us to also work on and advocate on as we go forward, is that, look, heat action plans have their limitations. We hope actually that they are redundant going forward, because this heat as an event thing is not going to work in the long term. It's served a purpose over the last 10 years. It's done well. We have brought down the mortality, but don't think that this is going to protect informal workers or informal settlements. So tweak HAPS right now, make it worker and informality centric, which is not the case right now, and then take it forward. Point number two, guidelines have to be updated. I mean, this is like an absolute no-brainer. 2019 guidelines not being updated is preposterous, to say the least, and that absolutely has to change. Third point, that every worker is different. Women workers are also different. There are so many categories. I think the first step would be to mention and develop specific SOPs for workers. Delhi Heat Action Plan is the most recent one and a relatively better one that I have seen. Maybe others can add. So that can be a good step, to a good mandatory step that every state or city heat action plan needs to do. Because right now, outdoor workers in general is not making sense. And the generality of it does not really translate into action. Fourth point about action is that we need clear, actionable frameworks. So moving from awareness, working hours, worker protection, infrastructure, adaptation, even towards compensation. So all these aspects need to come in, not like pre, during, or after heat, or not like in the short term, long term, but all short term, long term, around these fronts. I think if the actionable framework comes from the NDMA or the authorities in the center, that's going to be really useful. Subsection point, I've already mentioned that we need chapter subsections for informal settlements and workers with these clear actionables. Budgets, guys, if there is no money in it, there is no point in even mentioning in the heat action plans or any of these documents. So what's happening with a lot of these resilience building actions is that, I don't know whether you've, I mean, of course you would have all seen that you have these green tarpaulins that folks have, city authorities have sort of installed on red light junctions. And this is happening when you have street vendors who are not allowed to put coverings on top.
So that is allowed, and that you are willing to put money in that for bikers and cars to take sort of shade from sun, but street vendor who's doing their livelihood on the street, she or he is not allowed to put it up because that's considered to be illegal. So that should not be allowed, and money has to be put in for informal settlements and workers. Some percentage allotments can come, that would be very useful. Co-production and co-financing has to be the case. I'm just saying one thing, that look, people are already investing a lot to adapt to what's happening on the ground. If only such practices are recognized and some part financing is done, workers, communities would be more than happy to contribute a lot more and get this actually rolling on the ground. Co-production is absolutely important, because I know of heat action plans that were done in 2 days or 3 days, right? So that's not going to work. English documents put on websites is not going to work. So it has to be co-produced. It has to be like a yearly affair in doing so. Last slide very quickly, that this is in the long term. This will move us from heat action plans to resilience. And I'm just giving a few points. Develop and document set of practices. So what I liked about what Chennai and Tamil Nadu is doing is that they're trying out a lot of things, which is why I said that if you can share links of how those experiments are being shaped out, or even excellent examples shared by Mitashi, I think these are great initiatives. This should lead to norms and standards for heat resilience, and especially for workers and settlements, and not just for formal buildings and planned areas, so to say. So how do we do it? That's a challenge. Positive recognition to informality. I can't stress this more. We are talking about inclusion of informal settlements and heat resilience for informal settlements and workers. When workers and settlements are being displaced for green blue infrastructure, right? It can't be more contradicting. So if we don't fix this as soon as possible, I mean the whole debate is useless, because they would be harming them more than actually helping them. Legal recognition is something that I've already mentioned. Cities can't really actually do this unless climate action comes as part of the 74th Amendment, is what I'm thinking. I don't know, but climate action has to be planned with master plans. Our labor welfare laws have to be rethought, and they have to also change, which means that Ministry of Labor also needs to come in. We can't have multiple plans: master plan, smart city plan, climate action plan, heat action plan, flood plan, disaster. I mean, we have to come back to the master plans and get these things incorporated there, and then also put money there. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So we have to do this, and NDMA could take a backseat, which is the last point that I wish to make. That look, unless the Ministry of Housing, Urban Affairs, Ministry of Labor, Ministry of Environment, Forest, Climate Change, which is meant to deal with a lot of climate resilience aspects, unless these three folks coordinate amongst them, or three or four, how is that climate action in cities is going to work? So it's not just coordination of the ULBs, I mean, we always talk about ULBs don't have coordination. We don't have coordination at the highest level. So how do we tell them that this is high time, change it? Otherwise, our cities might suffer in the long term. So that was my last slide. Thank you. And this is my contact in case our friends wish to kind of ask, connect. I'd be more than happy. Thank you. I might have taken more time, but that's it from my side.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Aravind. Really exhaustive presentation,
Sorry for
great points that can be taken back. And would love to ask more questions immediately, but we are running short on time, and I would love to invite Divya Gupta and Shafat Mir from Seeds for the next presentation. Divya Gupta is a climate advocate with 20 plus years in crisis response, resilience building, and community-centered disaster preparedness across Asia. And Shafat Mir is the lead construction management. Shafat works with construction teams to oversee daily issues, ensure quality and timely completion, especially for large-scale buildings. Over to you both.
So, actually, majority of that information is already covered by the last three speakers. So I will be little quick. Wherever it is a repetition, and whatever point are the new, we will be taking them in a detailed way. So as already, some of the speakers were sharing how this problem is arising especially in the urban areas because of the urban heat island, how increasing number of states has been experiencing heat wave conditions over the years. If you see this report on the website of NDMA 2020-19 report, every year number of states are increasing. Though there was a little fluctuation happened in 22, but even post 22 we are experiencing the increased number of the states in the heat wave situation. And also because of this urban heat island, we are seeing the effect of the impact of this heat wave, especially among the vulnerable community, those who are living in a like slums area or the unplanned kind of settlements. They are the more people, those who are directly affecting through this heat wave. And the adverse impact is more towards these vulnerable community, rather those who are living in a very luxurious kind of apartments or the living with the luxuries. So if we see what are the causes behind this effect, especially why these people are affecting, especially the vulnerable community, like large built-up areas with a heat retaining and low albedo material, which we have seen, especially cities like Kolkata, Delhi, Hyderabad, Bangalore, because there, if we see that there is a huge difference between these areas and even their surrounding area. 1 to 7 degree temperature change of the temperature we can experience, and lack of vegetation and green cover is there, which is Mitashi already covered, so I will not repeat it here. And the similarly the other points she has covered. And this cannot affect if we see how because of these high-rise building, because of the construction work, heat cannot go out, and it affect a lot in this area. So its impact is getting higher on the community. And also this high population, because of these human activities, people are living in a very dense population. They are like 5 to 10 times more to than the rural areas and the town nearby towns. So because of these human activities, transportation, the air, and the electricity consumption, and and also so many activities are happening. So this is the reason we are experiencing these and crowd. They are living in a very crowded kind of situation. So they are facing 5 to 10 times more situation than the people, those who are living in a rural or the nearby towns. And this part is already covered by last colleague, so I will not repeat it. So how, these are some numbers which are already covered by Mitashi, but I will again try to press them. Like slum communities in Delhi, because we are working in these cities, have density of 50,000 to 1 lakh person square kilometer, 5 to 10 times higher than the planned residential area, which are constructed through some planning of urban community. High density settlement trap radiant heat turning street and LA to the thermal corridors, which is impacting more towards these dense population area. And overcrowding, people, especially when we see slums like in Delhi also, and the slums like in Mumbai, in Dharavi, and many other slums, overcrowding increasing these areas a lot. So if we see how it is impacting the community, like there is a lack of green spaces, yeah, and one major cause we have witnessed in these areas, because they are not here for every time. Many times authorities demolish their area, so they don't want to go for the kacha kind of construction. They try to build a pakka kind of construction, so which reduce their green cover, their green area, which affect a lot. And also this settlement they live in a very shaded situation, and green space can reduce the temperature by 2 to 4 degrees Celsius. And concrete and bare soil dominate the landscape of this area. And also we can see this was already covered by Mitachi. And so sorry. Yeah. So if we see how it is impacting, heat stress is more intense and longer lasting. Days of heat are increasing, even the nights are more hotter than the last years. Lack of cooling options in infrastructure issues are very limited under the among these population because of the lack of resources, lack of money. And we see heat increases risk to vulnerable communities more because they have to go and work in open areas, and many times they are losing their livelihoods. Students are losing their education, and they are losing their study time because they are facing a lot heat and they are unable to study. Schools are closed. Government is deciding to close the schools for more days because of the heat wave. So livelihood loss is there, education loss is there, mental stress is there, because when people lost their livelihood, definitely it affect their personal lives and their other well-beings. And also, I mean, when we see how this infrastructure, the other infrastructure also get affected, especially the water scarcity we have witnessed in these slums area. Many times they have to call tanker, they have to pay separately other than the water tax they are paying. Common taps, many times they are not working. And whatever eligibility of the as per the standard they require a per person water, they are not getting the enough water to use for the drinking purpose, for the domestic purpose. And the electricity is also a problem. Many times many families are not having enough supply of electricity so they can protect themselves from the heat. And the sanitation facilities, because of the water scarcity also, and because many people, those who are used to go outside in the daytime to work, but they are living at the home and they are using the share sanitation. So over 35% of slum households lack private toilet access. They have to go in a share spaces. And green spaces are decreasing because people are thinking, especially when they have to construct any green space, or then they have to maintain it. But because of the lack of the resources, lack of the time, and also they are not thinking it to live at the same place for the longer time, because they are many times they are the unplanned areas, and they always thought authority will come and demolish their area. So they try to construct the pakka and the concrete infrastructure for everything. Even if you see the play areas, completely there are paver block. They completely close this green grassland. And also the climate responsive shelters are required if we want them to fight with this heat situation. Climate responsive interventions can be just give me 1 minute. Just give me 1 minute. Yeah. So climate responsive shelter interventions can help mitigate impact of heat waves on low income communities, because they can reduce the temperature, and with that they can improve their health, they can improve their mental health, they can improve their livelihoods, they can improve their education also. And climate responsive design uses passive strategies rather than the mechanical cooling. It's not just about the infrastructure, it is about the small changes, small ideas which can be utilized for the decreasing the temperature and increasing their well-being. It can provide thermal comfort and minimize energy usage. And also the cooling options. So there are many options available, and very low cost options available, and very friendly options available. So number one thing is to understand that, getting that knowledge, those solutions should reach those innovation solutions should reach to these communities, and they should access the material, and they should know the skill how to utilize that material. So cool roofing solutions are roofs contribute to 70% of heat gain of a building. This is just a matter of little bit knowledge and little bit resources. And wall cooling solutions required where walls are not shaded or made of heat absorbing material. And street cooling to reduce radiant heat in the slum areas. And ventilation also play an important role because they are living in a very close setting, very dense population area. So if ventilation can be provided, it will reduce their problem a lot. So these are just numbers. I mean, those who are directly involved in the construction part or providing the knowledge to the community, they can help them to understand how this kind of material are increasing the heat, which can be avoided in any kind of new construction, and also in an old construction they can repair that or change their strategy. So there is a technical, some slides are there. So Safad Bhai, he is an architect. He will help us to understand that. Safad Bhai.
Hello.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're
hi.
audible.
So regarding this seat, we have worked in different slums areas. There are some findings. Dwelling area is approximate 60 to generally sizes are house in Jugi and sizes are 60 to 10 feet and 10 by 10 feet. Water quality is very low. TDS is approximate 800 plus. Bacterial and electricity cut in summers is 3 to 4 hours. Sanitation in most cases is shared and not in good condition. Roof material generally is GI sheet, cement, stone slab, in some cases tarpaulin. Walling made generally is brick. Uh, 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 4.5 inch, and streets are generally date 1.5 meter to 2.5. We have done two solutions, cool roof solution and street shading. In the cool roof solutions, we have done uh, industrial and non-industrial. In industrial, we have done painting, bubble sheets, and other. In natural, we have used bamboo, earthen jute, and earthen pots and extra. In for street shading, we have we have used recycled material such as plastic boards and other to cover the street shades. What was the criteria for selecting solutions? Uh, uh, the community can afford the material, easily applicable, easy access to material, no labor, or they can do it themselves, low maintenance, and it can be easily uh, replicable. What we have done, we have what are the results? Suppose we have used paints. It reduces 4 to 7 degrees, and it is fast and highly stable. We have used lime traditional. It reduces 3 to 5 degree, low cost, but needs annual. We have used recycled roof panels. It reduces 6 to 8 degrees, but it can be used for semi-permanent houses. Double roof oblique tarpaulin, it reduces 3 to 6 degrees, low cost. We have also vegetation. We have done vegetation. It reduces to 4 to 6 degrees, but it can be done on permanent slabs, yeah, stone things. Uh, Broken tile layering, it can be used. It can decrease 3 to 4 degrees. What are the impacts? Uh, in general, we can reduce 7 to 8 degrees. Improvement in work and environment, in reduction in devices, coolers, positive impact on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Safad Bhai. And
Thank you.
also, like if anybody would like to visit these locations, you are most welcome. These locations are in at Delhi. And also, I'm sharing here the link of our YouTube, channel, where we are having these videos how to construct these infrastructure and how these infrastructure are supporting community to reduce the temperature and how they
You
can
are most welcome. We can.
Yeah. Thank you, Safat Bhai. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Divya and Shafat. We will move on to our last speaker for today, Professor Asha Hans. Professor Asha is the Vice President of the Shanta Memorial Rehabilitation Center at SMRC Bhubaneswar in Odisha, a leading disabled people's organization that has been working for over 3 decades in the areas of disability rights, gender, climate change, and rehabilitation. Um, Over to you, Asha ma'am, for your presentation.
Is there time left? Do I have 3-4 minutes? Or
Yes,
what?
absolutely. We're running a little over time, but we would love to hear from you. So please, yes.
So globally, disabled people we consider them as a minority, but there are 16% of the people across the globe. That's more than 1 billion people. 80% of them in the developing countries are persons with disability. I use one lens across my work everywhere, and that is the lens of equality and also the lens of freedom. Equality, you all know that in cases of climate change is the right to life, but where freedom is concerned, it is a life of dignity. These are two things that where people are concerned. The IPCC has recognized that persons with disabilities need some kind of support system, and this is what they have tried to do as much as possible. But in a study that was conducted over time in Korea, where 60,000 hospital admissions were studied, the risk was higher. It was found was very high for females. People above the age of 65 were much more affected, and many of them had respiratory diseases. But most important was that the cost factor was so very high that it was very difficult for persons with disabilities to go to for admission to hospitals. There has been a very hostile architecture because it is not accessible. Very few public services, inaccessible public transportation, and failure to get any information, early warning system, which is accessible. So where disabled people are concerned, they face the violence of climate crisis more intensely than other people. But as a disabled person told me recently, and is writing for my book, is that we also bring crucial insights for navigating climate disruption, for living with and adapting to a changing world. So they are the ones who need to say, what do we want? What is it that we need to do? There is a heat impact of extreme heat impact on certain groups. For example, my brother had a spinal cord injury. It was a tremendous fight where heat was concerned because you don't sweat. So persons with spinal cord injury, those who have multiple sclerosis, and those who have brain lesions, it's not only fatigue and cognitive difficulties, but also neurological issues that come up. And the most important is thermoregulation of temperature. Your body does not sweat, so your heat increases in the body. So whatever your temperature is, it's more than 100. There are power outages if there are during a climate crisis. What happens is that the refrigeration doesn't work. Medication cannot be there for most people. The most important part of disabled people who suffer the most are those with mental health or psychosocial disability. And there are 3 times more mortality than other people. So when you're thinking of accessibility, you're thinking of houses that you're making, and you are making houses that are not accessible or are not cool enough, then it is going to affect this group very, very much. And it leads to higher mortality and morbidity. They might already have a high existing health condition before the heat wave. So any inaccessible urban space and transportation can exacerbate the problem. And if you don't give them information, which is readable by them, then it means that you have not given anything. The most affected are women with psychosocial disabilities, and they are. Shall I stop now? Because it's already 4:30.
I think another 2 minutes is okay if you'd like to make any additional points and then wrap up.
It ends in high mortality and heat wave extra days, triple the rate of mortality that other people have. In the Lancet that I had written recently said that people with disabilities are twice as likely to be hospitalized during heat waves, particularly for mental and respiratory illnesses. I would like to say also that the government of India has the harmonized guidelines and you can follow those. We have given the guidelines, but despite that, the ramps that are put up are never according to the rule. So buildings, parkers, water shortages, any person who has a disability and there is heat would need water all the time to bathe, continuous water. And then you don't have water stress means. Now, where policy and data are concerned, there is some policy and data. The UNCRPD Article 9 gives that. The Paris Agreement also mentions that and says that disabled people should be included in the national climate policies or adaptation, which is a very difficult thing to get at. But in cities with green cover are having impact, but we don't know whom does it. The Sendai sphere and sphere both, I worked on the 2010 sphere guidelines to include disability. So they are all there. We know that climate change will intensify inequality. So we need a safe built environment in any inclusive future. And I'll end with what disabled people say. And I think that is the guideline, that nothing about us without us. You cannot do anything. We need more research. We need more. You have to see that, recognize that disability is highly impacted by heat waves. You need to we are not in any of the action plans. We are not in any of the policies. We need to do that. You need to train your builders to see what kind of accessibility we need. Otherwise, we are on the streets. Thank you so much for your.
Thank you so much, Asha ma'am. And I'm really sorry you had to cut your talk down to a few minutes, but I'd love to start with a question for you. And I would also invite our participants to add their questions in the chat. Maybe we'll have time for 2 or 3 questions and we can wrap up in the next 10 minutes. Really appreciate your patience and you staying with us all this while. So ma'am, as you were saying that persons with disability are currently not part of any plans or any policies when it comes to heat or climate adaptation or mitigation in general. Could you speak a little more to what are some specific demands that are currently being made and what the response from the government has been, and especially with Odisha, which is considered one of the preeminent places when it comes to disaster reduction in the country? Yes.
I'd like to say when I said that there are no plans, but there is a guideline which I had written for NDMA that is there and it gives a lot, but the SOPs have still not come. The action points, I would say that what disabled people have been demanding and saying that you recognize disability as a highly impacted, most affected during the heat waves. You have to recognize that. If you don't recognize it, it's not going to. If you're going to only see architecture, you're going to see building. It is not people-oriented. We have to make it people-oriented. So inclusion of disability in the action plans, and you have to train building practitioners and medical professionals. Because once you go to hospital and you don't know how to treat a disabled person, all doctors don't know. So believe me, that is true. You have to maybe if you are having heat, make a specific guidelines on disability inclusion, and and what does everyone demand, that make the budgets inclusive so that all the buildings that you make are inclusive, that any plan that you have follow the guidelines of inclusivity and that persons with disabilities are not left out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Aravind has a question whether the guidelines for PWDs are available on the NDMA website. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. That's Thank you so much again, ma'am, and thank you so much to all of our panelists and speakers for a very informative discussion. I think one thing has been pretty clear, that heat does not impact everybody equally. There's a disproportionate impact amongst informal workers in informal settlements and otherwise. And we need to think through how are we developing policies and plans, and whether we're developing the right policies and plans for them in the first place. Given that we're out of time, unfortunately, I think we'll have to wrap up here, but really hope we can get together again and have more of these discussions. Any questions from any of our participants, please feel free to leave them here, or to maybe, Gursimran, we can give them an email address to direct the questions to, and we'll take them to the panelists and speakers and hopefully get responses and keep the discussion going.
Am I audible?
Yes.
So thank you to joining us today, and a very big thank to our speakers for sharing their insight, and our moderator, ma'am, for leading the discussion so well. And finally, thanks to all participants for their time and interest. And we will have more webinar on this topic, as I mentioned in the start. It is a series of heat wave preparedness. So we will have more webinar on this topic and many other related topic also. If you have any suggestion, any feedback, any question, please feel free to write to us, and stay tuned our social media channels from regular updates from Spare India Academy. Stay safe. Take care. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, folks. Take care.